with this weather and well, I'll continue to speak about the health technology assessment. It will be quite challenging because addressing different HTA systems in Europe within 1 hour will be quite dense. I'm not going to address all the details which appear in the slides. You have this information available on your papers. I'd be happy to answer to specific questions, but I go through within our 1 hour only key elements for the reflection and for understanding the differences. So, and starting by generalities, as we all know, all healthcare systems have 3 main objectives. Of course, to provide care of quality, whatever is meant by care, to ensure equity and system sustainability, which is in fact the affordability. The care we pay for should be compatible with our means, which is something more and more relevant with time. And we have to find an acceptable balance between these objectives. And this is one of the main objectives of HTA systems. So as you know, medicinal products are going through many different steps of evaluation. After development by pharmaceutical industry, there is a pre-reimbursement and a post-reimbursement periods. In the pre-reimbursement periods, we have a key element in the history of a medicinal product, which is the approval, the marketing authorization, or the license of the product. As we've learned yesterday and this morning, this approval, this marketing authorization is based on assessment of the quality, the chemical quality of the product, on safety, preclinical and clinical safety, and efficacy. And then, after marketing authorization, at various times, depending on the member states, there is a process which is HTA. And the objective of HTA, Health Technology Assessment, is to evaluate price and reimbursement. And we will see we have a lot of contrasts between systems within Europe. So essential points, very quickly. The systems are different. All HTA systems rely on the availability of data, which is common for the most important part of it, concerning safety and efficacy with the data which is provided for the marketing authorization application. So there is no specific or marginal specific studies conducted in terms of data available for safety and efficacy for HTA purpose. Majority of the safety and efficacy data, clinical data, is coming from the same studies which were conducted for the marketing authorization. And the phase 3 clinical trials, and in particular the most important one, which is the pivotal clinical trial, will be used for marketing authorization purpose, but also for use within the HTA systems to evaluate the efficacy and the safety. Please stop me if I'm not clear. I realize it's very dense, and the same if I'm using acronyms which are not clear. The involvement of consumers or patients or representative of patients is very variable in the different HTA systems. In some member states, there are no representatives. In other, there is an opportunity for patients' organization to express themselves. And at this point, starting the presentation, I think it's important to remind ourselves about 3 key definitions. Efficacy, effectiveness, and efficiency. Because in terms of HTA, the 3 definitions will be applied in order to evaluate the relevance of price and reimbursement. Efficacy, is defined or corresponds to the extent, as it is written on the slide, extent to which a medicine has the ability to bring an effect under ideal circumstances. In other words, efficacy is related to the data collected from clinical trials. Clinical trials are absolutely essential to evaluate the clinical impact of treating a patient with a drug, but a randomized clinical trial is an artificial circumstance of treatment. So It's just to answer, it's important, but it's to answer to the question, can this treatment work? It's efficacy. Effectiveness is the extent to which a medicine achieves its intended effects in usual clinical settings, in current care circumstances. And the question corresponding to effectiveness is, does it work in practice? And that could be very different. There are many circumstances in which we observe from clinical trials results which are not observed in practice for many different reasons. It could be compliance related to side effects. It could be the fact that the health system in specific territories do not correspond to the conditions of inclusion of patients in clinical trials, etc., etc. So we have to keep in mind that the data we observe from clinical trials, which are included in the applications for marketing authorization and also for HTA purpose, do not always correspond to what we observe in practice. And it's not related only to safety, because we have some bad surprises sometimes, hence the importance of pharmacovigilance. It's also related to efficacy. So the difference between efficacy, clinical trials, and effectiveness, real condition of use. And efficiency includes a cost dimension. Efficiency, it depends on whether a medicine is worth its cost to individuals or society. This is the link with the notion we've seen this morning on utility. So, for example, the score in quality compared to the cost would correspond to a result of evaluation of efficiency. Is it worth it? And this is one of the objectives and the specific objective of health technology assessments. Is it okay? So what do HTA agencies require to take decision on pricing? As I said, I'll go quickly on this slide, data from efficacy and safety based on clinical trials and principles of evidence-based medicine. This is what Mark Wu explained to us, how to evaluate a medicine in order to avoid any bias in clinical trials, and especially using randomization and double blind. And HTA, there is also an aspect related to assessment of cost efficacy or cost effectiveness. So what is the reason why I separated efficacy from effectiveness in this sentence? Simply because at the beginning, in some systems, we will see that HTA, so evaluation is done just after marketing authorization. And just after marketing authorization, we have no data concerning effectiveness. We have no experience of real use of the medicine. So in these kind of circumstances, it will be cost efficacy. But after some years on the market, collecting data from real use of the products and the consequences on patients, then we will have information on effectiveness. So we have, again, to separate cost efficacy and cost effectiveness.